Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and just about a week or so ago, I reviewed the Trijicon 3X Magnifier. Fantastic magnifier. Well, today we're going to go ahead and double that and do a review of the AimPoint 6X magnifier with the ADM side swivel mount. So let's get started. Now, this should be a pretty quick review because, well, it's a magnifier. There's really not all that much to talk about, but we're going to go over the tech specs and features, and I'm going to talk to you guys about what I thought using it, because this is my first experience using a 6X magnifier. In the past, it's always been 3X magnifiers, and I was surprised to find out that there is a little bit of a learning curve when you go from a 3X to a 6X. You have to be a little bit more precise as to where you put your head on this thing. So why don't we go ahead and just start off with the tech specs and details, and then we'll move on to my own personal experience. Now, one of the downsides to this review, I'll just be honest with you, is I could not get a camera shot through the magnifier and the red dot. It just was not possible for me to get the proper eye relief with the camera, the proper zoom, proper focus. It was impossible. It looked absolutely terrible. So you're just gonna have to believe me when I say this thing is fantastic and extremely clear for a 6X. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about with this magnifier is going to be some of the tech specs surrounding durability, because when you put the AimPoint name on something, it's assumed that it's going to be a very tough optic. AimPoint makes things for combat, they make things for professionals, they make things that are going to last, and that's usually why you're paying the higher dollar for an AimPoint item, is because of that whole, buy once, cry once thing. If you're buying an AimPoint, you don't have to worry about, well, I can buy 2 or 3 for the cost of one single AimPoint. You just buy the one and you're done with it. So what it has is a 7075 aluminum body. So it's a very nice strong body, but it's covered in this big rubber housing. Now this big rubber housing right here actually serves dual purpose. One, obviously, being the fact that it's so thick and larger than the optic itself, if you drop it, it's pretty much just going to bounce off of that rubber cover. There's also a rubber cover that you can move either towards the very front, or you can have it sitting right in front of this rubber cover, depending on where you're going to be putting your mount. So pretty much the entire optic is protected by that rubber housing. But the other thing that it's also useful for is giving you a good grip on the optic. So if you need to move this thing to the side, in this case with this ADM mount, this thing is going to swing over to the side like that. It just allows you to get a better, stronger, and a more firm grip on it, because it's rubber, so it's got a little bit more texture to it than just the standard aluminum housing. So it's good for protection, and it's also good for giving you a good grip on that if you need to use it. Also, I found out, because this is a 6X, and once you take this thing off, you can use it as a 6X monocular. That also gives you a better hold when you're using it as a monocular. You get pretty much a whole hand hold on it so that you can look through. Because it's 6X and because of the type of optic it is, you have very little eye relief, and so holding it correctly is actually pretty good. So it does serve dual purpose, good hold and protection. Now, being a 6x magnifier, obviously it's not going to be as short as some of the 3Xs that are out there. This one right here comes in at about 5.5 inches. So versus, let's say, the Trijicon or the Vortex that I've reviewed previously that are under 3 inches and you get 3X magnification, this one right here is about twice as long as that. So consider the fact that you're going to need a little bit of extra rail space. Now, the nice thing about it is these typically come without a mount, and when you get a mount for it, you can mount it towards the back, or you can can mount it towards the front, and if you mount it towards the front, it's going to give you a little bit more push towards the back, also allowing you to get maybe a flip-up sight or something like that underneath it. This particular mount that I have it right now is perfectly centered. It gives me the right amount of eye relief. It sits about an inch past the charging handle. That way I can get my eye perfectly behind it. But again, you're looking at a longer optic and you're looking at less eye relief. So some of the other 6Xs that are coming out right now have 2.5 to 3 inches of eye relief. This one right here is going to be about 1 3/4 inches of eye relief. You have to have your eye pretty close to it. That was, kind of one of the things that was a learning curve for me, because in order to get the proper eye relief, you got to be sitting right on it, and it's not very forgiving. That's one thing that I want to point out as well. If you are just off a little bit, you will have a little bit of a ring or a shadow that kind of follows you around. It's not forgiving in the eye relief department, and it's not forgiving in the head position department as well. So you really have to learn to keep your head right behind this thing when you're using it for that long distance stuff. But I got to tell you, once you get it down and you know exactly where your cheek's going to be every single time, that 6X is fantastic. It really brings that target in close rather than a 3X, which does give you some magnification and you can hit those shots a little bit better at longer distances. This thing right here is going to give you the accuracy past 100 yards that you're looking for. Now, when Optics Planet sends me something to review, I always go over to the page where they sell it, and I read the Q&A section down below, because you can go over to Optics Planet and you can ask them questions. They'll have a professional get back to you and answer your question for you. And one of the biggest questions that I got is, can I use this with A, B, or C optic? Because AimPoint says this is specifically designed for the H2, the T2, and the Comp M5. Well, the answer to that is, yeah, you can use this for anything red dot, reflex, or holographic sight that has a mount in that 1/3 lower co-witness height. So if it's in that 1/3 lower co-witness height and it'll sit in front of this, it's going to magnify it. So you want to put an EOTech, an MRO, whatever it is, a Vortex red dot in front of this, you're going to be able to run it with this. So to answer probably the biggest question that I saw, yes, you can use this with any optic. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the glass. The glass on this thing is fantastic. Edge-to-edge clarity. It's got all of AimPoint's high-end coatings on it, so you end up with a really nice, sharp image. The colors look absolutely perfect. It's pretty much like looking through your naked eye, but just magnified 6 times, which is exactly what you're looking for. The only negative thing that I saw in the 6X versus the other 3Xs that I've tried is going to be the fact that you have a little bit less light transmission. And so when the sun starts going down, it falls behind the trees or falls behind a hill, your light does go down just a little bit faster. So with the 6X, it's just a little bit darker. The color is still perfect, but you'll notice looking between the two that one will be a little bit brighter, the other one maybe 10 or 15% dimmer. So it's not like it's detrimental to the optic itself or causes that much of an issue, but just know that it is going to be a little bit dimmer out of a 6X. Now, I do want to make a quick note to all my friends out there that have astigmatisms. I hear from you all the time, writing me emails asking what's the best optic for astigmatism. Should I go with an etched reticle, a red dot holographic sight, or something else? So I want to point out the fact that if you have a red dot that has a slight bloom to it, okay, so you have those spikes that are coming off it, it looks like a Burning Man, or it's not a perfect circle like it should be. If you are one of those people, this magnifier will intensify that. It won't make it any better. It won't make it so bad that when you look through it, you're like, oh my gosh, you're just seeing this big bloom out of a red dot. No, it's not going to be like that. But you will still see the same amount of distortion on the red dot when you look through this versus looking through the red dot without a magnifier, but it is going to look slightly bigger, so that could be something for you to consider. It's, to me, because I have an astigmatism as well, I have contacts that help me correct that astigmatism a little bit, but even with my contacts and AimPoint having a great red dot, when I put this magnifier behind it, it's not a perfect circle. So that's something that you definitely want to note. Now, there is a nice feature to this magnifier right here, and that's going to be the diopter. The diopter actually has a lot of adjustment from -3 to +3 so that you, for your eyes, can get everything in focus the way that you want. So it's got a lot of adjustability to it. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the mount, because when you get one of these 6X magnifiers, they don't typically come with a mount. So you're going to have to find your own mount, which I actually think is nice, because instead of being stuck with something that you don't like, you can pick something that's going to work best for you. So this is an American Defense Manufacturing mount. This mount right here is a little bit different than other mounts that I've seen. Typically with the Magnifier, you just flip it over to the side. AimPoint has one that you can actually turn and remove the magnifier and leave the base still on it. But there's different ones. This one right here, you actually take the magnifier and it flips kind of down. So a little bit down, as you can see, it's kind of pointing down right there and out of the way. Now, the nice thing about this is, with a 6x magnifier, and this is one of the reasons why I like this mount so much, the nice thing about this mount, flipping up, over, and out of the way, is it clears your hand for the charging handle. So, for instance, if we have this long 5.5-inch, large magnifier, and we simply flip it over to the right, we would completely block the charging handle on the right-hand side, leaving only the left-hand side actually usable, right? Now, if you only have a charging handle that's non-ambidextrous, that's probably not going to be a big problem for you because you're going to charge it on the left-hand side anyway. I like to use 2 fingers if I can, or if I want to be able to use the right side. That's why I have an ambidextrous charging handle. So again, the fact that this one does not flip down and block my access to that, but instead comes all the way around like this, leaving me, complete space to do what I want back here. It just makes it a lot nicer in my opinion. So I like the fact that this thing flips around. However, that was another learning curve because I'm used to going like this and flipping a magnifier out of the way. There were several times where I did that, or because there's actually a lot of motion, there were several times where I'd have to do 2 motions in order to get that thing over. So it took a little bit of practice, not only to remember that this thing's coming around like this, but at the same time, it took a bit of practice to be able to do it in one smooth movement to get that thing out of the way. So you'll even see in some of my videos where I look like I'm kind of shaking because I'm trying to get this thing over, and it took more than one movement. So again, you have to practice a little bit with this mount, but I think it's worth it given the fact that it's designed really well. It's a very nice mount. It's quick disconnect, so you can take this thing off, and it's also locking, so you're not going to have to worry about it snagging and popping your magnifier off. You have to push down on that little lever in the middle right there, pop that lever open, and then you can take the magnifier off. You can use it as a monocular, and then just simply pop it right back on. Fits perfect with the AimPoint Comp M5. It's going to work with, just about anything. Like I said before, that's 1/3 lower co-witness. But it's a great mount. It installs nice. It fits nice and tight. And it's just out of the way. It's a great mount. So the American Defense Manufacturing, let's turn that light off. The American Defense Manufacturing mount paired with this AimPoint, and they're both over at Optics Planet as well, paired with this AimPoint, I think is a great pairing. I think it's different than things that I've seen out there, but well worth it. So anyway, if you guys want more information about this, definitely check out my website, which is again in link down below. Make sure that you check out the USCCA and support the Firearms Policy Coalition. And I want to thank you all very much for watching. Again, please like, subscribe, and have a great day.